is KC Sports Network, proudly presented by Emprise Bank.
Hello and welcome into That Football Show, presented by our friends at Holiday Distillery and Ben Holiday, bottled in Bond Bourbon. I'm Tucker Franklin, joined as always by Matt Verderame. We appreciate your guys' patience. We were gone last week, obviously. Matt on vacation. Myself, I was also out of town. So we were taking a little bit of a hiatus before we really wind up and gear up for this NFL season. As teams start to report, the Chiefs, their first open practice for the public will be Sunday. Rookies have already reported. Matt, how was your vacation? How are you doing?
It was great. It was great. Everything about the vacation was perfect, save for my golf game, which the first time I played, it was like my version of being Tiger Woods. I was hitting shots I'll never hit again in my life, and then I went again. That was the mistake.
Yeah,
I should have just left it alone. And that way I could have told people, like, yeah, man, like, my game is just, I'm fantastic. Let's put it this way. I played the back nine first. My buddy, we each shot a 50 on the back nine. And we're like, hey, you know what? Let's just play best ball on the front nine because it's just shameful. Plus, I had to get going for a variety of reasons. We get to the tee box on 6. I get on the tee box. I take my backswing. Feels a little funny. Come through the ball. Driver snaps right in half. I mean, clear, like clean as a whistle. Like it almost looked like somebody took a Sawzall and cut it down the middle. It snapped on my backswing. Just gone. Like, what? I've never had that happen in my life. In anything, with a baseball bat, a hockey stick. I mean, I've broken hockey sticks and baseball bats on a backswing.
Right.
Gone. So the good news is I still hit the ball. The bad news is it was 100 yards and it was a line drive into a tree. So yeah, that pretty much well encapsulates how that round of golf went. It's not great. Now I need a new driver. So
yeah,
what are you going to do? That was the 4th round, by the way, I played with that driver.
The 4th one?
I mean, it was used. Granted, it was used. It was $80. I'm not dying over it, but like right. It was 4th round.
Wow,
it was great. I was straight. That was the one that I could do. My irons. In fact, I twice threw my 6-iron further than I had the ball. So that was good. But yeah, it was not great. Not great. Anyway, other than that, the vacation was awesome. How that was your time, and you in St. Louis, right?
Yeah, it was St. Louis. We got to see 2 Royals wins against the Cardinals. That was pretty great. It's always good when they beat the cross-state team. And it rained, so I was going for both games, right? And it rained the first night all day. Actually, it rained all day in St. Louis, and they postponed it to a day-night doubleheader, which is awesome. I love going to like doubleheaders, and we had a hotel downtown. So like after the first game, we got to go back to the hotel, hang out for a little bit. And then go back to the game. So that was awesome. And we also, before heading into St. Louis, we're like, you know what? We should buy like a 30 rack of beer because once we get downtown, it's going to be a whole lot more expensive to get alcohol downtown. And we were by like a Schnucks. I think there was a Schnucks downtown that we like could have went to. But like that ended up being a lifesaver for us because we just had a 30 rack chilling in our mini fridge. The mini fridge that was clearly set way too cold, and we had some beer slushies because you gotta get to adjust that mini fridge. But it was hot enough outside. Once we walked outside, the suckers melted and they were good. But that was the move. That was the play. Anytime I'm going to stay downtown now, just for safekeeping, I just got to take a safety 30 rack with me to go downtown when I stay.
A safety 30 rack. I can appreciate it. My move in college was, all right, let's get a 30 rack before we go out.
Yep.
And being from my generation and being an Italian in New York who watched Jersey Shore religiously, as any good tool does, I actually, I don't know if this should have put me in like a clinic or something. I realized that there were 6 commercial breaks every Jersey Shore. So our goals were between the breaks, you had to hammer a beer. Like, so you couldn't, and if you were like back one, like if you were in the shower, like, okay, now you got to funnel them, right? We had a funnel called Carlos for reasons I'll never understand. And we used to use, okay, catch up, boom, boom. And then, or we're in the third segment of the show here. So you got to be on beer 3. And that was great. Like, you knock them out.
Yeah.
And then you go out to the bars. And you're already feeling pretty good. So you didn't have to spend $25. It was beautiful. You ever do beer in the shower?
Oh, shower beers are
huge back in college. I'm taking a shower and you grab 2 like Bud Lights, just head in, come back out in 10 minutes.
It tastes better in the shower for some reason. I think it's science.
It's beautiful. We used to have our showers the way they were. We had like a partition that it was only probably about a 2-foot gap from the top of the partition to the ceiling.
Mm-hmm.
But depending on how much beer you had, we used to think it was really funny to fill up a bucket with like freezing cold water and then just dump it on whatever assholes in the shower. And you screamed. It'd be great. Yeah. And it was always funny until somebody said, "Come on, you ruined my beer, son." Yeah, just screaming.
Right.
And all right, sorry, man. Good times.
Yeah. No, it is great. It almost... Training camp is a lot like that, though, right? You hear about the pranks they pull and everything like that. I don't know if they're having shower beers. Maybe they are. I don't know. You get a lot of...
They're in college for the next however many weeks.
That's what I'm saying. And, like, they're bringing TVs. Patrick Mahomes said he's bringing a TV for the first time to watch the Olympics and to play NCAA 25. I'm not going to call it college football 25. The NCAA 25 is the proper name. I've already seen people online being like, well, actually, as they're pushing up their glasses, like, well, actually, it's at college football 25. Get out of here with that. I don't want to hear that. Sure. It's college football, yes, but it is NCAA 25. That is what the game has always been called. NCAA 14, NCAA 13. It's NCAA 25, and it's crazy to think it's been 10 years since a release of this video game has come out. Yeah. A video game that was very formative, like. When I was growing up, Matt, I didn't play Madden all that much. I played it sometimes, but but college football, NCAA, like all the way up, 07 was I think my first one. Might have actually been 04. I can't remember. But I played the NCAA football games all the way up. And I played the NCAA college basketball game. I played the college baseball game that they had a couple years. That's like I played those games. Like, those were the games that I played. And then I was like, yeah, I guess I'll play Madden. And I really actually wanted the Madden for the first time when they did the crossover when you could take your Road to Glory. I believe this was 07, where you could take your Road to Glory and then put it in Madden. That's when I was like, okay, I want to get Madden too, so I can play the same character, because I'm a big sucker for career mode, story mode, that type of stuff. Yeah. But I'm very excited for this game to be back. I haven't played it yet, just because I kind of want the sanctity of the release day, right? I know that you could pay your $100 extra and you could get it early.
But, you.
I like the sanctity of the release day, but super excited for that game.
Well, like I told you before we went on, I now know what it is to be old and scared and afraid. I'm going to be 36 in August, and I can't bring myself to buy the game online. So I'm like, look, I need a physical copy. It's how it's going to be. Granted, as I also told you, I might get 2 Crown Royals in tonight and just be, hell with it. We're as in the words of Bill O'Reilly, we're going to do them live.
Yep.
Look, I bought a PS5 2 days ago specifically to play this game. It's the only reason. So this game's basically cost me like $600. I bought this for no other reason than this and future NCAA games. I am not a big gamer. I don't sit here and play a lot. To your point about like playing out careers, I have MLB The Show 20, and I've played. I will tell you, I am not again, by no means am I a video game guy. Like, when I was in college, I played like somewhat, like, because that's what you do. You have nothing else going on.
Yeah.
But I got 2 kids now. I don't have time to sit there and like get the headset on. Like, in fact, when I bought PS5, the guy was like, "Would you like a headset?" I was like, "I would not," because there's no chance I'm ever playing with that thing. I don't play live. Like, it's not. I'm just old school. But there are 2 games I will take on anybody, and I'll challenge. Tecmo Super Bowl on Nintendo. Anybody, you come with it. You come over. You got a free invitation. Come over to the house. I've played that game for 30 years. I still have the original Nintendo hooked up downstairs in my house. I will smoke anybody. I don't care. You pick the teams. Doesn't matter. I've got it covered. There's actually a tournament apparently up in Madison, Wisconsin annually for this.
Really?
I found out about recently. I will be there for the next tournament, and we'll see how that plays out. The other one is MLB The Show 20. As a hitter, like I'm fine, but I'm not. I will strike you out. Like I am convinced. I played the road to the show and all that, like with every slider up as hard as it could possibly be, and basically it was Cy Young. And then actually did a handful of times go live and play other people and just absolutely just full blown annihilated people. It's one of the great feelings. Like, it's the closest I'll ever get to being a major leaguer. And I'm trying to pump a fastball inside and pump it back. And then, I get, and now, all right, here comes that slider, you son of a bitch. Here it comes. And then just boom, off the corner. And it's so stupid because you walk away with such a smug sense of satisfaction. You're like, I just probably struck out like a 10-year-old.
Yeah.
I'm sure people listening to this were like, bro, I'd kill you. And you're probably right. But in my head, those two games, that's what I've been. So we'll see. We'll see if College Football 25 becomes the third.
I can't wait to just hop on to do an online game. I'm not much of an online guy anyway.
No.
I think Ultimate Team has kind of ruined both FIFA and Madden and really all of EA's games. I think Ultimate Team, just the way the pay to play basically type of thing where you just are paying for all these packs and building your team. I think that's kind of ruined those games. But I've never been big on online versus 1v1.
So I'm assuming you're going to be doing one of these, you're going to build up your franchise, so to speak.
Yeah, the Dynasty. Yeah.
Who are you playing with?
So Home Field, our good friends at Home Field Apparel, you can use code Mizzou24 if you want 50% off your first order. Not a big deal. Our friends at Home Field Apparel did a flash sale. It was $54, and you could get 3 random tees that you could play with in the game. So they would pick your 3 teams for you. I got that pack. I posted a video of it, unpacking it. I got USC, which one I was just USC doesn't really do it for me, Rutgers.
Wow.
That would move the needle a little bit. And then I got a sick TCU shirt.
Okay.
I already like TCU. TCU is one of my favorite teams. They're probably my favorite Big 12 team, truthfully. There's got a lot of history. I like the Horned Frogs mascot, purple. It just doesn't make any sense. And they also wear red sometimes. And it's just kind of funny. Nothing about that school makes sense. And I think it's awesome. I'm probably going with Rutgers. I think Rutgers will probably be the first school that I try to win a Big Ten championship and win ultimately the national title with, because I think that's a pretty sturdy challenge. I think Rutgers is a good challenge.
Yeah, that's fair. Listen, believe me, as someone who grew up near Rutgers, that is definitely a challenge. That's funny. So I have a group of super followers on Twitter that I posed a question to, and I was like, listen, you guys give me some candidates, and I'll pick from that. Rutgers was one of them. Multiple people were like Rutgers, which I was like, that's kind of intriguing. But the two that I'm going to really consider are Virginia and Vanderbilt.
Yeah.
I like playing in the big conferences because I like playing against the big teams and the big schools. I've seen people be I play with North Texas. And I'm like, I don't play against, that conference. I was like, Vanderbilt in the SEC would be outrageous. The last time this game existed, I took Purdue to glory in back-to-back years.
It's a good one.
And was an unmitigated dynasty at Washington State. Pullman was dominant. So I'm like part of me is the ACC, but then, whatever. There's Florida State, there's Clemson, there's Miami. I'm like, I could maybe do Virginia. I thought about Wake Forest. Maybe
it's a good one.
Yeah, maybe Wake Forest. So I don't know. We'll see. I'm leaning Virginia.
That's a strong one. I really do think that Virginia is a good one. I've lived in Virginia
for a few years. The Cavaliers. I'm like, I kind of like Virginia. So that might be how this goes. And then after I take Virginia to 3 consecutive titles, the Chiefs.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to turn around and take on Vanderbilt. And if I win with them, I deserve a free degree from Vanderbilt.
I think so. I think that
Rutgers and listen, I'm trying to take you boys to glory. And if I win, I want an honorary doctorate. Because you guys are really giving me a challenge. It's what does that mean? I've seen what you've done for others. Here it comes.
I have also, I was also telling you this before we started the show. I have watched so much content about this game, and more content than I've gone on Twitch more times in the past 24 hours than I've been on Twitch probably in my entire life. As just, I just turned 26, so I'm not like wildly old and out of touch, I like to think, but Twitch was one of the things that just like kind of missed me. I think I kind of missed the boat a little bit on Twitch, but I've been watching a lot of people do content. And I guess this year, like, they made recruiting incredibly hard, and like they made it tough to have the number one recruiting class in the country. And one of the guys that I watch on Twitch, on YouTube, was saying he got the 40th class in the country and was like stoked. So they're making it an actual challenge, which I think is good. You shouldn't just be able to go in and completely turn around, Kennesaw State to a national title contender and move them conferences, but would be sick. Go Owls, but hooty hoo. But yeah, I think it's a very exciting game. It at least has a lot of buzz, and what's really I didn't know something could unify this country as much as that game has.
Let's not go down that road,
right? But I do think it's kind of crazy that there's like not a lot of like bugs that I've seen come out of it, or like
I saw that kicking a field goal apparently is the hardest thing of all time in this game.
Good. Well, actually, I think that's a good thing.
Yeah, well, the analytics people are celebrating everywhere. And no, I'm like, listen, I might at some point, if I get really bored, like the Presbyterian Blue Hose, we're doing it. That's right, the Blue Hose, hilarious.
It's incredible.
No, listen, you know what though? It is true though. Like it should be hard to recruit. That is kind of the point. See, I think though, and then we can move on because I know there's a lot of people listening to this who are like, shut the fuck up. Like talk about the Chiefs. I promise we're going to hear in a second. I will say, I think that the one thing that people miss with recruiting, like you got to play to your strengths. Like if you want to be a passing team, don't waste your time recruiting some running back. Just don't waste your time. Just recruit 1 million receivers. If you're going to be like, I'll tell you right now, I'm going with the Spags approach on defense. We are going to play man up defense on the corners. I am looking for big physical cornerbacks, and I don't care if I have a great edge rushers. I'm going to blitz the crap out of these teams, and we're going to play 30-man coverage behind it. So, like, I'm not going to sit there and waste my time trying to get some elite edge rusher when I'm bringing 7, and here it comes. You deal with it. Like, no, there's no point. Now, listen, I get to a point where the team's loaded, great, but early on, give me corners, give me a good tight end, give me a good offensive line. I'll make it work. Maybe we'll win the championship right away, but like we'll get the full game. We'll play well.
Yeah. Gonna play some sticky man and heat the boys up. That's the best way to play defense.
That's right.
Sticky man and heat the boys up.
Engage 10.
There you go.
Here it comes. Okay, you're gonna have to block everybody.
I love it. All right, let's actually talk about the Chiefs.
Yeah.
So today what we're going to do is we're going to talk about the AFC West teams. Obviously, they're a little bit of an off-season recap, as you can tell by the title of the show. But first, we're going to talk about, let's start with the Broncos, because I think we can also parlay this into talking about the Chiefs, because there was a big news nugget that came out actually on Tuesday, right before we recorded this show. Broncos guard Quinn Meinerz is getting a 4-year, $80 million extension. That is per Ian Rappaport and Mike Garafolo. Yeah. The deal includes $45 million in guarantees. Now, he was a 2021 NFL draft pick in the 3rd round. So, look, same draft class as Creed, same draft class as Trey, plays the same position as Trey Smith.
He does.
Matt, I want to get your thoughts on this contract and what it means for those two offensive linemen taken in the same draft that the Chiefs took Creed and Trey.
Well, I will tell you this much right now. He being Trey Smith, is not going to be cheap. They are not going to get a discount. This is not going to be one of these things where it's like, oh, they signed them for like 3 and 36. Like that's not happening at this point. Trey Smith has never made a Pro Bowl. He has never been on an All-Pro team, but he has won 2 Super Bowls in his career. He is a very good player. And most importantly, and people may not think this matters in NFL circles, but believe me, it does. People know who he is.
Yes.
That matters. It matters that you know who he is. And for those who say, well, why? Because a lot of these people in NFL front offices, while this is their job and they have to know everybody, like, it helps sell it to the owner a little bit sometimes. Hey, you know what? This is a guy who, like, he's won a couple Super Bowls and he's a name. And Trey Smith is going to get paid. If he doesn't get hurt this year, he's going to get paid $20 million. I will be very surprised if it doesn't happen. I mean, you maybe want to say it's 18 or okay, fine. I mean, he's going to be right around $20 million a year. Robert Hunt is not better than Trey Smith, in my opinion, and Robert Hunt got 5 years and $100 million.
Right.
And if you want to say, well, no, I think he's just 10% better. Look, bro, he's in the same class. Yeah. Like, it's not like you're looking at Robert Hunt and thinking he's John Hanna or Will Shields. Okay, he's in the same class. Jonah Jackson got paid by the Rams this offseason. Damian Lewis also got paid by Carolina, which is apparently trying to have the best guard tandem in NFL history, or at least the most expensive. Now we see Quinn Meinerz getting paid. Quentin Nelson got paid years ago. He's a bit different. He was a phenomenal player at the time, still very good. If the Chiefs want to keep Trey Smith, they're going to have to earmark about $20 million a year. And my conflict on this, there's a part of me that says I just can't see them doing that. Like, that just doesn't seem like something they would do.
Right.
But I am old enough to remember them signing Joe Thuney to the richest deal in NFL history for an interior offensive lineman. And I think if you asked Brett Veach right now, do you regret that contract? No. Like, I don't. He's been a multiple-time All-Pro. He's had his best seasons in Kansas City. He's a borderline Hall of Famer. Like, if you're the Chiefs, you're probably like, yeah, man, you know what? That was worth it. And I think they showed that they thought it was worth it by continuing to put more money onto the cap number by restructuring Thuney.
Yep. Now,
Thuney signed for this year and next year. They could move off him after this year for a little bit of financial pain, but they could do it. And I think they'd get like $16 million back in space. If they were to move off Thuney. In fact, I'm going to pull that up while I'm talking, so I'm not speaking out of my ass. Yes, exactly, $16 million. They would save $16 million if they cut him next year. So, look, there is that the other side of that where you go, well, if they move off Thuney, they could just pay Trey Smith that money,
right?
And I don't think that paying him and Creed Humphrey are some one or the other.
Correct.
I don't think that's the case because Creed Humphrey's not going to get paid $20 million because he's not a guard; he's a center. Which I'll never understand why centers get paid less than guards, but that's where we live. So it is what it is. I don't think it's prohibitive that they wouldn't pay him. I do think that $20 million is a lot of money for a player who I think is terrific,
right?
But is not top 2 or 3 at his position like Joe Thuney is.
What's interesting about this contract now, the Quinn Meinerz deal, 4-year, $80 million, now makes Joe Thuney's contract no longer top 10 in terms of guard value. And the Chiefs did pay a whole lot of money for Joe Thuney, as you mentioned at the time, to get him there. You talked about the respect that Trey Smith has around the league, and I think that was really evident at O-Line Masterminds when we went down there. I just got to be a fly on the wall there, and I thought that was awesome. Talked to Cree and Trey for a few minutes. Those are on Chiefs News Daily if you want to go listen to those conversations there. But one of the things that really blew me away about Trey Smith, obviously he's just a very smart guy in general, but he had college coaches coming up to him and asking him questions about technique, about philosophy, about different offensive line things. He had guys around him that are supposedly higher ranking than him, asking him questions about how he does things. That's huge. And listening to him talk, there was no doubt in my mind. I was like, man, this dude's going to make a ton of money. People respect him. People hold him in a high regard, especially at a spot where there's a ton of offensive linemen around the NFL at this conference talking about, their craft, and people want to know what he's doing. Cesar Ruiz also there, talking to him about what he does. That's the thing too, is all other offensive linemen around the NFL are asking him what he does. And that's not nothing. And I think that should be taken into consideration. But man, the number's getting higher and higher. And we thought we knew it would be. I mean, Matt, we talked about this weeks ago, how Trey Smith's number was just going to keep climbing and keep going up. And it's not a surprise. Good for the Broncos for getting this done when they did, because, Quinn Meinerz number was going to keep going up. Like, that's just how the market works. But you're right. I don't think it's a one or the other with Creed and Trey. And if they lose both of Creed and Trey, I think that's going to be tough. I don't anticipate them to lose both of them. I think I really do think that
no.
I think it's likely now that Creed will be back. If you look at that number, like we've had this conversation, Matt, then you look at that number, it is a very okay number, very palatable number to reset the market. It's like, okay, yeah, that seems like a no-brainer to reset the market with Creed.
Right. I was just going to say, literally, the $14 million a year, they reset the market. Fine. Give them 456. Who cares? The one thing I will say about the Trey Smith stuff, I have always felt with Mahomes that his guards and his center are more important than his tackles. And I know I'm on an island with that. The way he plays, to me, he's mobile enough. Like, he can step in and out of trouble. He can, and he's unorthodox. He'll take a 12-step drop. Just ask the 49ers. Like, he'll do it. I have always believed with him, if he can step up, he's good. Like, even if he's got to deal with pressure off the edges and whatever else. Think about the Super Bowl they've won. I mean, other than the first one where they had Fisher and they had Schwartz, who were obviously, especially Schwartz, terrific.
Right.
Their tackles haven't been that good. And they've won anyway. It's been their interior. That's been the thing. And the Super Bowl that they won that he struggled in the most was that first one when they couldn't stop giving up pressure up the middle of the line. Now, both also that night was legendary and couldn't get it done. But, if I'm Brett Veach, that is the one thing in the back of my head. Like, if I can give this guy a really good interior, we're probably in business. And the other part of that is, Sua Matai is on a rookie deal for the next 4 years. He's cheap. So, I am on record. I'd pay both those guys, and I would tell Bolton, hey, look, man, here's a hard line. This is it. Yeah. This is what I'll pay you, and if you're not want to take, like I saw in the ESPN's been doing these rankings, these top 10 rankings. Nick Bolton was ranked 5th, and look, I am not trying to wade into the discourse of hell that is the Nick Bolton conversation. Nick Bolton is not the 5th best linebacker in the NFL. I'm sorry. Like, he's a good player. He's a valuable player. He is. I mean, I would argue he's not the best linebacker on the Chiefs. Me personally, I'd pay Humphrey, and I would really consider paying Trey Smith. And I don't care about $20 a year. I care about the guaranteed money. But look, I will say this: to be fair to Brett, if they let him walk, $20 million is a lot of money. That is a lot of money for a guy who's a good player, but also is a guy who you could argue is not a great player. So it's tough. Well, I think Creed Humphrey is a great player. Mm-hmm. I think Trey Smith is a good to a very good player. So I want to keep him if I'm the Chiefs. But there's also the reality of you can't pay everybody. It's tough. Tough one.
It is. It's going to be an interesting conversation to have all year. And I know Nick Bolton has come out and said that he wants to get this year done and then focus on the contract. Right. I would actually really love it if one of the 3 contracts comes out during training camp, right? If one of the 3, they're like, hey, you know what, let's go ahead. Let's get ahead of, let's just say Creed Humphrey. Let's go ahead and get out in front of this one. Yep. Let's go ahead and sign him for 5 years, 14 APY. Let's go ahead, get out in front of that one, get that done, so then they can focus on those 2 in the offseason. I think that would be interesting. Also, the other option for like Creed and Nick Bolton, franchise tag is there. Yep. It's not going to be feasible for either of them, really. I think it's like $24 million for linebackers, and it's still $20 million for the center or for guards, offensive linemen. Which also they don't break those 2. Like, they got to do a better of the franchise tag, I think, man, because they don't break up outside linebackers in the linebacker one. It's just like all linebackers, and they also
it's ridiculous. They
just also do all linemen, so tackles are also thrown into that pool of money in the franchise tag. So they really, I mean, it's 2024 already. So why aren't we like separating the franchise tag more? I'm gonna double check this and look this up. I looked it up the other day. Yeah, the linebacker tag is 25.8 for next year. So franchise tagging Nick Bolton probably isn't going to happen. And then offensive lineman is 24.7. So like,
I don't think they're tagging any of these guys.
I don't think so either. And that's the other thing. I don't think they're using the tag at all next year.
I'll tell you the one guy that would be interesting. I don't think they use it, but they could. It's Justin Reed.
18.7 is a safety tag. That wouldn't be awful.
I don't think they're going to pay him 18.7, but I think that because I don't think his annual salary is near 18.7. I mean, right now it's 10. I mean, maybe he gets to like 13 or something in his next deal. I don't think they do it. I'll 18.7. For some reason in my head I thought it was more like 15 million. 18.7. I don't think they do it. Look, I don't think they're going to use tag. And I mean, if you're the Chiefs, I really do think like you'd be very prudent to sign one of them now. But if there's any criticism I would have of their front office, they're all about just being like, well, we're going to see how it plays out. Okay. And Chris Jones is still laughing because he's got basically two big contracts in one right now. Like, now look, there's a lot of funny money in that deal. I get it. But, even dating back to the John Dorsey era when they were like, well, we had Justin Houston, Eric Berry, let's see what happens. And Justin Houston had like 87 sacks. And they're like, well, then here's $100 million. It was like, there's a part of me that's like, maybe you guys ought to just pay these guys. But, listen, they can wait. I don't know what they're waiting for, but they can wait. I do agree with you. They should get one of them done at least and kind of clear the decks a little bit.
Yeah.
They don't seem to be in a rush, but we also know that, the way these things work, they could sign two of these guys in a week.
Right.
And, then you're going, oh, wow. And now they could maybe even tag this guy if they really, really wanted to, and then they're all set. So, we'll see how it plays out.
All right, let's take a break. We're going to recap kind of the offseasons for the Broncos, the Chargers, the Raiders coming up right after this, and we'll kick it off with the Broncos. Get you on the other side.
We appreciate you supporting KC Sports Network by listening to our podcast. You have helped us become the highest-ranked Chiefs podcast network in 2022 and 2023. And don't forget about our daily Substack newsletter, the best written analysis you can find on the Chiefs straight to your inbox every day. kcsn.substack.com.
Matt, I don't know if you know this, but the UFL draft is currently happening.
I don't know.
I just was sent a tweet with the first pick of the 2024 UFL draft. The Memphis Showboats have selected Jason Beaton, quarterback out of Kansas.
Gee, well, thank God.
Just so
Congratulations.
Yeah. Cody Schurter got selected by the St. Louis Battlehawks.
I've not know this.
Mizzou's running back from last year. That's interesting. He was with the Niners. He should be on that team. Anyway, let's talk about the Denver Broncos. We did talk about them re-signing Quinn Meinerz. We'll talk about their I'll run through their departures real quick. Obviously, Russell Wilson is to the Steelers. They traded Jerry Jeudy to the Browns. Cameron Firmling left. Cloyd Cushenberry's at the Titans. Jonathan Harris at the Dolphins. Josie Jewell to the Panthers. Justin Simmons. Is he signed yet?
Unsigned.
That seems kind of crazy that he hasn't signed anywhere yet. There must be something else there that we don't know.
You should bring him in for fun.
Yeah, that would be... Fabian Moreau, he's out there still, and so is Mike Purcell. Those are their departures, their key ads, I should say, in air quotes. Key ads. Zach Wilson, they traded for him in a trade with the Jets along with the 2024 7th rounder in exchange for a 6th-round pick. Michael Burton got re-signed. Shout out, former Chief, old friend. Little Jordan Humphrey re-signed with them. They didn't do a whole lot. They got John Franklin Meyers in a trade with the Jets as well. Will Lutz was going to sign with Jacksonville and then re-signed with Denver. That was a whole thing. I remember.
Yes.
Brandon Jones, they got him to try to fill in that.
Yep, from the Dolphins.
From the Dolphins, and they re-signed PJ Locke. So, not a whole lot of movement on the Denver Broncos front. Looking at their roster now, they might have, and I think we've talked about this because we do like the windmill 360 dunk on the Broncos on this program here.
Yes, we do. Not difficult.
They have probably the worst quarterback battle of all time with Bo Nix, Jared Stidham, and Zach Wilson.
Yeah.
Bo Nix was their first-round pick in 2024.
what's crazy, and yes, windmill dunking on the Broncos, and not just windmill dunking. It feels like windmill dunking on the Broncos on one of those like Fisher Price ones that you can like raise up the basket, you know, and it's like, I'm going to make it 6 feet and just windmill. What is really weird, and I almost feel like maybe we're a little too, not you and I, but just like in general, the media, a little bit too aggressive on it because we just haven't seen it. Nobody thinks Bo Nix is good.
Right.
Nobody. Like, I have not run into one human being in any capacity who's like, you know what I think's going to be good this year, Bo Nix. Like, they took him 12th overall.
Yeah.
Like, and we're all talking about him like he's a 7th round, you know, throwaway pick. If such a thing exists. I have to say what Brock Purdy's not. But I agree with you. Like, they're atrocious.
Mm-hmm.
They might be the worst team in football. And I know Sean Payton's got a Super Bowl. I get it. I respect Sean Payton. I don't know what he can do. Like, even if you think Bo Nix is going to be decent, even if you're like, hey, everybody's underrating him, it's Courtland Sutton and what?
Right.
I mean, like Jerry Jeudy, okay, Cleveland hilariously overpaid Jerry Jeudy because they're Cleveland. But, by the way, I like to chalk up a rare W in that one. When they traded for him and they gave up like whatever it was like a 5th round pick or something, that everybody was like, oh, huge win for Cleveland. I was a voice in the wilderness. I just tweeted out, I'm like, let's see what the contract is first before this is a win for Cleveland.
Right.
Because it's Cleveland. And right as rain, they were like, hey, we'll pay Jerry Jeudy like he's a number 1 receiver. 3 years. But you know what? I look at Denver and it's like, even if Bo Nix is halfway decent, I don't know, man. Like, they can't play. Defensively, Surtain's the only guy I have any respect for.
Yep.
Offensively, like, look, I'm not taking a shot at Quinn Meinerz. God bless him. Man got paid. Good for him. They've paid him. They've paid Ben Powers. They've paid Mike McGlinchey.
Mm-hmm.
I got to tell you, that's a whole lot of money. They paid Garrett Bowles. That is a whole lot of money on that offensive line for not a lot of talent.
Yeah.
I mean, not one of those guys is a Pro Bowl level player. Not one of them. And you're paying all 4 of them like they're Pro Bowlers. Ben Powers got paid in free agency a couple of years ago. Meinerz is getting paid like he's an all-pro level player. And he's a good player. But he's like Trey Smith. Like, he's a good player. Garrett Bowles is not a good player who had one good year in Denver, was like awesome. Treat him like he's Trent Williams. And Mike McGlinchey could never pass block, which is why the Niners let him walk.
Right.
And the Broncos gave him like $90 million.
Yep.
Yeah. Look, even if things came up roses for them, hey, Nix is better than we thought, and we hit on some of the kids in this draft class beyond him. What is the ceiling? Like 5 wins?
Right.
You know, I think they're terrible. I'd be shocked if that team is playing meaningful football in November.
You mentioned that was one of the things that I looked at on this team is like I looked at the offensive line and it's fine. Like, it's a fine offensive line, but like not for the money you're paying it. The money you're paying it is not okay.
There's an average offensive line that you are paying top 5, Mike.
Right. And looking at the wide receiver room, they do have Courtland Sutton. They signed Josh Reynolds. They have Tim Patrick, who hopefully he doesn't tear another ligament because he's done that
both the last 2 years, like the first day of training camp.
Dude, I feel bad for Tim Patrick.
Yep.
They did draft Troy Franklin in the 4th round. He fell, and they were able to get him and pair him up with Bo Nix. They have a guy named Jalen Virgil and a guy named Brandon Johnson. And, they have Philip Dorsett. And they also have a dude named David Sills. Excuse me.
Awesome. Yeah, they're not
the wide receiver room. So
it's not good. Like, Courtland Sutton's going to be, it's basically going to look like a punt gunner out there. It's going to be like, hey, there he is. 8 guys guard him. They're not, tight ends are nothing to write home about. Like, they're bad, man. They are. And if Nix isn't good, like everybody's kind of anticipating, oh my God. They might have the worst offense in football. I mean, that team's not going to score. And look, I've said it before. I'll say it one more time before we move on to another team.
Yep.
I have seen people on the positive side with Nix say, hey, you know what? Look at his completion percentage in Oregon last year. It was like 77%. And I have a buddy of mine, Eric Froton, who does great work for Roto World, who covers college football and knows everything about everybody in the sport. Is incredible. And I asked him, I was like, hey, man, do me a favor. You probably know this off the top of your head. Bo Nix, where did his average depth of target rank among all D1, or what do they call D1 now? FBS?
FBS, yeah.
Okay. Among all FBS quarterbacks, where did his depth of target rank last year? Because to put out numbers like that is either unbelievably impressive or like there's something else going on. Because Bo Nix, in his collegiate career at Auburn, as a starter, like this wasn't like he threw like 6 passes. Real, like full-blown years. 57.6, 59.9, 61 even. Then he goes to Oregon and jumps to 71.9, and then last year was 77.4. So I'm like, that's either one of the greatest years of all time, 45 touchdowns, 3 picks, or like there's something else going on. So I asked him that question. The answer I got back, his depth of target, dead last in FBS. Dead last. Basically threw bubble screens. Nonstop for an entire season.
Yeah.
And completed 77.4% of his passes. I got to tell you, I don't think he's going to do that at the NFL level.
Probably not.
Really don't think that's going to happen. And so, like, I was floored that Bo Nix was a first-round pick because I watch, like, I don't watch a ton of college football. I admit that openly. But I do watch a lot of SEC football. Always watch SEC on CBS, RIP. And I saw him a lot at Auburn. He was awful. Like, not like, oh, he's decent. Like, oh, he can't play. Like, I remember watching multiple Iron Bowls where it was like, oh my God. Like, he looked like me pre-snap, like deer in the headlights trying to get ready. And then saw him at the Senior Bowl, and it was not great. Now, it's the Senior Bowl. Like, I get it. You're playing with guys you don't know, and it's a showcase. Like, I'm not putting a ton of stock into that. But, like, yeah, it's a tough situation. Let's put it that way.
It is not a great situation for the Denver Broncos to be in. But let's move on to the Las Vegas Raiders, who we want to talk about not great situations.
Yeah.
Yes. Let's talk about the departures. Jimmy Garoppolo to the Rams. Josh Jacobs went to the Packers. Austin Hooper to the Patriots. Jermaine Illuminor went to the Giants. Jerry Tillery to the Vikings. Bilal Nichols to the to the Cardinals. Sorry, Amik Robertson to the Lions. They lost a couple other guys, but have not re-signed. Hunter Renfrow being one of them. DeAndre Carter, Brandon Bolden, Brian Hoyer. I don't think that he will be having any employment anytime soon.
No.
Talking about their additions, they did get Gardner Minshew, signed him to a 2-year, $25 million deal with $15 million fully guaranteed. That was definitely a choice on their part. Amir Abdullah re-signed with them. They got Michael Gallup on a 1-year deal worth up to $3 million. Jalen Guyton, he is now on the team. Christian Wilkins was their big free agent as they signed a 4-year, $110 million contract. It's $84.75 million guaranteed. They also got Cody Whitehair on a free agent deal. Thoughts on the Raiders, Matt?
I wrote after free agency, the beginning of free agency, the meat of it. I wrote that they had 3 big needs, and one of them was a quarterback, and was essentially told the Raiders were not pleased with that assessment. I got to tell you, they need a quarterback, whether they think they do or not. Which the more concerning thing is, like, do you not think you need a quarterback? You guys think you're good? Like, you all set with Aiden O'Connell and Gardner Minshew? Okay. That's one of the fun things about writing at SI is, like, the teams, everybody's of, like, my age or older, so, like, people read Sports Illustrated, like, they grew up reading it, so then, like, you still do get, like, you know, you get feedback from these teams, which can be a positive or a negative, depending on what it is. But yeah, I was like, what? Like, you guys don't think a quarterback's a need for this team? Really? Okay. That's fine. Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and say it is a need. And I think they have a lot of needs. Like, most of the offensive line, the running backs. You got Devontae Adams, you have Jacoby Myers. You drafted a pair of tight ends in the last couple of years, and then Meyer out of Notre Dame, and then you took Brock Bowers. So, like, your weaponry might be pretty good.
Yeah.
But I don't like the line. I don't like the quarterbacks. Defensively, I think the combination of Wilkins and Crosby is awesome.
Yeah.
Tyree Wilson last year was basically me, so that's not great. You're going to need him to play better. And I defy anybody to show me one player in their back seven who matters. Like, Robert Spillane is a decent linebacker. Nate Hobbs is a solid corner, like a number 2. But it's not great. So I think they're better than Denver. I don't think they're a total walkover. Like, they're going to have a game or two here against a good team if they're frisky. But I think they're like a 6-win team. Like, I think, maybe 7 if things break right defensively. But I don't see them as a playoff team. I'd be very surprised if they were a playoff team.
You mentioned one of the points that I've been making about this Raiders team is they've spent their first-round pick on a tight end. Now, Brock Bowers is not a typical tight end. You can obviously move him and do a lot of different things with him. But spending 2 top 100 picks on tight ends in the past 2 years is definitely a choice by this front office to do that with Michael Mayer and both Brock Bowers. They also drafted Jackson Powers-Johnson in the 2nd round and DJ Glaze in the 3rd round. So those are their top picks. Jackson Powers-Johnson, they did need some interior offensive line help. Look, I mean, their offensive line, not great. No, Miller is fine. Jackson Powers-Johnson, I'm curious to see how he adjusts. He was always slotted in as a guard.
I like that pick, to be fair. I thought that was a good pick.
I think it is, too. Andre James is their center. Dylan Parham is their the right guard, and Thayer Munford Jr. is their right tackle.
I don't love the right side. Not going to lie to you.
Right side's not very good. The right side is not very good. The left side is fine. They did sign Cody Whitehair, though, in free agency, so maybe he slots into one of those spots, maybe at center. So he could. I know people in Chicago didn't necessarily love Cody Whitehair. People probably listening to this podcast that are K-State fans probably like Cody Whitehair. But I know there's a mixed bag of reviews when it comes to him. But yeah, this team, again, also you talk about the wide receiver room. Devontae Adams does not want to be there. Jacoby Myers, Jalen Guyton was one of the additions that they made. Michael Gallup. But like after that, they've got a guy named Christian Wilkerson, a Tyreek McAllister, a Jeff Foreman, a Ramal Keaton, a Trey Tucker, DJ Turner, Alex Bachman.
All those names could just be like AI generated.
Griffin, yeah.
Fine. Sure. Yep. That guy too. All of them.
But I mean, it's rough out there. But like you talk about the defense, I think that their front, like the Wilkins and Kuntz and Crosby,
sure,
fine. Yeah, I think that's a good front right there. Yeah. But it's the back end that you worry about. Let's move on to the Chargers. Let's talk about some departures for them. Will Grier went to the Eagles. Austin Eckler to the Commanders. That's probably the biggest one for them. Will Grier, obviously, not Eckler. Jalen Guyton to the Raiders, as we just mentioned. Mike Williams went to the Jets. Gerald Everett to the Bears. Nick Vanette to the Titans. Will Clapp to the Bills. Austin Johnson to the Bills as well. Kenneth Murray to the Titans. Michael Davis to the Commanders. Some additions that the Chargers made. Look, re-signing Easton Stick. Got to have a backup quarterback.
God.
They signed a pair of Baltimore Ravens running backs with J.K. Dobbins and Gus Edwards. You'll never guess who their OC is.
It's like, this is the biggest, like, who do we want? Who do you know? Who's in your phone? For the love of God, just call them. Okay.
They have two guys. Okay, so I guess I should mention, obviously, a big addition for the Chargers is Jim Harbaugh, right? That's a pretty big addition.
He also mentioned a big departure is Keenan Allen.
Yeah, that's a big one. That is a big one. I do think it's interesting when you talk about both him and oh gosh, I just forgot his name, the OC. Greg Roman. Both of those guys are like, hey, have you played for me before? Okay, come on over.
Big fans.
They both are very much like that.
Get a few carries before it's all said and done.
But yeah, they got both of the Baltimore running backs maybe 3 years later than they needed to. But anyway, DJ Chark, he is a Los Angeles Charger. Same thing with Will Dissly, Hayden Hurst. They really filled out that tight end room. Yep. Poona Ford, Bud Dupree, Denzel Perryman, Christian Fulton, all are Los Angeles Chargers now. Matt, what do you think about this roster? I think it's probably the best roster we've talked out of the other two.
Well, yeah, because they have Herbert. Like, Herbert makes them
right, yeah.
At least somewhat interesting. Here was my question with the Chargers. Like, existential question about this team. What the fuck is the plan offensively?
Yeah.
Is this just going to be like you paid Herbert $55 million a year to like turn around, hand off? Because I got to tell you, if that's the case, this isn't going to work. I don't know an iota about football compared to John Harbaugh or Jim Harbaugh. Jim Harbaugh, I should say. I will screw that up every single time. Every time in my head I say the name, and then I'm like, no, it's the other brother. Jim Harbaugh is a very good coach. I believe that he will turn them around at some point. They play a last place schedule this year.
Mm-hmm.
The division is not good. Like, I don't think the Chargers are very good. The Chargers might go 4-0 against the Broncos and the Raiders. Like, it is in play.
Yeah.
They could do it. Now, I do not think the Chargers are beating the Chiefs. I don't. I think the in fact, I can tell you, here's a fun, like, not that far on a limb prediction. The Chiefs are going to go 6-0 in this division. Mm-hmm. I don't think they're losing to any of these teams this year. And if I had to bet one thing this year in any sport in 2024, the Chiefs are not losing to the Raiders after what happened last year on Christmas. Okay, how much you want to bet Mahomes shows up with a Jordan jersey on for one of those games and eviscerates the Raiders like nobody's business? But the Chargers, like, in my eyes, because of Herbert and Harbaugh, if for no other reason, they're the second best team in the division. I think they're kind of clearly that. They're not the first best team. I mean, Kansas City is far and away the best team in the division. The Chargers are better than the Raiders and the Broncos. So I think they're going to try to pound the ball, which when this roster is not the worst idea in the world, like, you don't have receivers. You can make a real argument that the worst receiving group in the NFL. They are awful. If Ladd McConkey's not good, and I mean really good right away, they're screwed. They can't throw football. They have no tight ends. They have no I'm sorry, Joshua Palmer's not striking the fear of God in anybody. Like, Quentin Johnston, they're not good. But, you know, I could see them just saying, we're going to pound the ball. We're going to try to stay out of the sticks. Because of their schedule, I think they could be about a 500 team. Maybe they're somehow like the 7 seed and they're 9-8, and, you know, that kind of a thing. I think they're more of like a 7-8 win team. That's where I put them. Could they be a little bit better? Could they be a 9-win team? Yeah, okay, I can hear that based on Herbert and Harbaugh and the schedule, maybe. But I think they're one of those teams that if they do that, it's more because of the schedule than it is like, oh, wow, they're actually good. Like, I think they'd be one of those playoff teams that you'd hear those stats all week long of like, they're 1-8 against teams in the playoffs. But like they beat up on everyone who stinks all year long.
Right.
Let me ask you, like, if I gave you an over-under number of 4.5 being the amount of games the Chiefs win this division by, take the over or the under, 4.5.
I'd take the under because I think that there's a spot where they're comfortably in the lead, right? I think maybe they're 4 games ahead with like 4 games left, right? And it's one of those things where it's like, you know, let's just kind of coast this one out. Especially with the back end of their schedule when you see it like that, when they play all those games really tight in a row.
True.
I think that they could be ahead, and they're like, you know what? Let's just kind of let up a little bit, and you know, it's the Chargers losing a game that clinches them the division, right, or something like that, where then it becomes mathematically impossible, but they still end up. I think 4 is probably that would technically be under. I think 4 is probably what I would anticipate them to be at, but yeah, I think that they should have no problem again winning this division. That would be what? Would this be 8?
9.
9. It's hard to keep track. Truthfully, they just all kind of flow together.
9. I know. I was tweeting about it yesterday because Mahomes, which by the way, bad job by me. I actually wanted to throw us in the lead, and then I guess this is going to be a little like Easter egg for people who stuck around and hung out to listen to me talk about how I'm going to play with Virginia. I thought it was very, very interesting. Mahomes. We're recording this on Wednesday morning. Mm-hmm. For those listening or watching. Thank you. Mahomes shows up on Tuesday And that's usually a day where you're going to have a little bit of a pressure, and nobody's really going to say anything of note, right? Like, hey, happy to be here, blah, 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 blah. Maybe crack a joke about the fact you're like, a billionaire staying in a dorm room. I thought it was very noticeable and notable the way he talked about last season was not fun. It was not fun. He also talked, and I don't think this is about the player, but it's kind of the mentality. He was talking about Xavier Worthy and said, and I'm paraphrasing, like, yeah, he's not going to ease in. We're going to go right now. Like, we're going to get going right now. And I've already seen tweets from, as we're recording this, they're practicing, and apparently he's been yelling, finish, finish, finish at Xavier Worthy. I don't think that is an accident, and I'm not. It's really Worthy just happens to be like the big name receiver that's there right now because he's a rookie and only rookie in quarterbacks. I do not think Patrick Mahomes is very measured in the way that he talks to the media.
Mm-hmm.
I do not think it was an accident that he made it very, very clear we are not easing into this season. It was not fun for me last year. We did not have a good time, which is crazy because they won the Super Bowl. But he's not wrong.
Right.
Like, it was, obviously we didn't have the show last year. I remember, my God, talking about them on every other platform I was on and being like, this team is a higher fire offensively. And they, to their credit, they pulled it together and the defense was awesome and they won. I think he is making it very clear, and I bet you Travis Kelce follows suit here in a few days, that, like, we are not going to sit here and bask in the glory of what was last year. Yes, we won the Super Bowl. It also sucked in a lot of ways. We are not trying to have that happen again. I thought it was very instructive of the way they're going to approach this season. The Patrick Mahomes, the second he could, was like, yeah, guess what? Last year sucked. It was not fun. And our rookies, they're not going to ease into this. Let's go. Like, I thought it was a little bit of a different tone than he normally strikes. It was an interesting way for him to approach that presser.
Absolutely. It's going to be a good camp, I think. I got high hopes for it. Obviously, high hopes for the season. Chiefs obviously have the best roster in the AFC West and probably maybe the AFC.
Who would be two? Is it Houston? Is it Cincy? Is it Ball? Like, who the hell's two?
On paper, I think right now the Texans have a pretty damn good roster.
I would agree. I think it's Houston, like, just roster-wise.
Right.
Cleveland's in there if they have a quarterback, but I don't think they have a quarterback.
They don't.
So
yeah.
Doesn't really matter. I don't know how you could say, like, not that, look, obviously we're Chiefs fans. But, like, I'm being honest when I say this. I don't even know that you could argue that the Chiefs are number one.
I think the only team that has the better roster in the league is the Niners.
The Niners.
That'd be it.
I mean, and even that, like, do I think they're better 1 through 53? Yeah. But I always laugh, like, when those articles come out and the Chiefs are like sixth. And somebody's like, the Browns. It's like, bro, the quarterback weighs more than the punter. Sorry. That's the way this works. And that's the same thing I feel with the Niners. Like, yeah, I agree. The Niners have a better roster. Chiefs have Mahomes.
Right.
And without Mahomes, probably have a top 5 roster in the NFL. And then you have him on top of that and all those coaches. And Veach, who hits on like 8 rookies a year.
Right.
So they just keep churning these guys out. I just thought it was a very interesting tone to strike the first second you could be there. And he was just like, it was not fun. We're not going to go through this again. Okay. Well, that's it. And it also made me think, like, I wonder if that's the tone he struck with Andy and Brett after the season. This was not fun. We need to fix this. It's a very interesting tone to set for a team that just won back-to-back Super Bowls. Like normally you'd go in, hey, look, we're trying to, build on our success, and we understand the history, and we understand that no team's ever won 3 Super Bowls in a row, and we're bringing back a lot of the same guys, and we feel good about where. That was not what he said.
Nope.
It was like you would have thought they went like 8-9 last year. He was very declarative about the fact, not fun, need to be better. These rookies, they better get going. We need to get going immediately. Like, okay then. Like, very obviously not going to be sitting on hands in training camp. So, by the way, you're going to training camp most of these days?
Yep, I think nearly every day.
I will be there August 1st.
Perfect. That's the same day that Garage Beer comes to Kansas City.
Wow. All right. Well, then we will have to go to practice and then go into Kansas City and say hi to Garage Beer, and I will buy a bunch and bring it home.
There you go. When is August 1st? What day of the week is that?
Oh, God.
It's a Thursday.
Toward the end of the week, yeah. I was going to say, I know my birthday is like later that week, and that's my reference point for everything. Mm-hmm. It is dates in August. I know it's a Sunday, and I just work off of that. Yeah, man. Let's do it. I'm going to get some Joe's.
Oh.
And burnt ends. And then some Garage Beer, and it's fine. I'm saying I might, because I'm staying in St. Joe's the night before, like July 31st. I'm getting it from Minnesota.
Yep.
Might just have to stay in Kansas City August 1st and then go back to 2nd.
Yeah.
I just have to get it done.
Yeah.
So I got to go to that Italian deli you were talking to me about.
Oh, that's right. It is open. Yeah, no, it's open only on the weekdays. So we'll hit it for sure. If you stay on the 1st, we could hit lunch on the 2nd. That's great. SummerSlam is on the 3rd too.
So. Wow.
Big packed weekend.
A lot going on.
There's a packed weekend going on.
I mean, I don't know if I'm going to have time for SummerSlam, and I'm trying to take Virginia to the Crown, man.
That's true. That's a great point.
I mean, who's got time when you got West Virginia coming into town?
Right. You got to defend your honor. But Matt, appreciate you hanging out for this. Another show that we've gone over an hour. I think we're hitting our stride now. I think we're finally hitting our stride.
Well, the season's here now. Now we have like real things to talk about. By the time we do this again, they're going to have had multiple padded team practices, and then like the following show, it'll be the day I'll be like driving in Kansas City for doing this show. So it'll be good.
Excited. Well, that's going to do it for this week's edition of That Football Show. We'll be back next week with more camp information. As always, appreciate our sponsor, Holiday Distillery, Ben Holiday Bottled and Bond Bourbon, for always hooking us up, always being the best there. Make sure to go check them out. We'll be back next week with some more football talk from the Chiefs to around the league. So until then, we'll talk to you later.